Welcome back to RBD Block Challenge. I'm Cindy Cloward, and today we are working on block number 3. It's called Daylesford, and it's designed by Amy Smart. It looks bright and fun in confetti cotton solids, but we're excited to see what Amy does with this block. So, like always, the first thing you need to do is download the pattern from the Riley Blake Designs website. It's called Daylesford by Amy Smart. And we are going to work on this unit first. It's a flying geese unit, but if you'll notice, there's different colors on each corner, and it just kind of fades into the next block in the center. So it's going to be really important. Be mindful of placement when you're working on these flying geese units. So let's grab our B squares, and we're going to grab our C squares. We only need 4. Are going to be used for that center unit right here. So you're going to mark them corner to corner, unless you got a Seam So Easy guide. And then you're going to have to be super mindful of placement. You're going to put it on this corner, and it actually make sure the direction of your mark line is correct. Because what you want this to do is flip this way, so then it's flipped that way. So corner to corner, that direction. We'll put it there, and then we'll just make sure these other 3 units are going the right way too. Okay. So let's line it up. You can press ahead of time, do a temporary heat adhesive, pin, whatever works for you. You line it up in that corner, but if you want to, I always recommend going to just a skosh to the outside. And that is right, yeah. All right, let's clip our threads. Bring it over here. And now, before we trim and cut, let's just verify, yep, that's going the right way. You can look on your pattern. And we are going to use our 1/4 inch plus ruler to trim down. Okay, last one, and then we'll go to our pressing station. Flip those open. After we give them a nice little set our stitches, let's just press that open. Let's bring them back here. Throw these away. Oh. And it's time to grab our D squares. Again, now is a good time to draw your line, but I am just going to use my Seam So Easy guide. So we're going to put that on there, then we flip that over. It's going to look like that. So we're going to sew corner to corner here. Again, if it's easier for you to just mark them, just go ahead and mark corner to corner. Just going to line that up here. Again, just going a skosh to the outside. All right, let's trim those down to our 1/4 inch. This is just a quick and easy way. Okay. And that looks beautiful. We want to see about a 1/4 inch down to that tip. All right, these are ready to go. They should measure a 3 by 5.5. You can always bring in your 5.5 and just make sure they're good to go. And make sure that tip is a 1/4 inch up. And that looks good. These are good to go. We're gonna put them to a side. Now, step number 4, we're gonna take our E and our F. And again, choose one that you're gonna mark corner to corner. And that is going to be your guide. You are not gonna stitch on that line. So I'll just mark one for you. If you don't have a Seam Sew Easy guide, you're gonna have to mark it. And that is your guide, and you're gonna sew a 1/4 inch seam from that line, so on each side. Do slightly less, you know, you can, whatever works for you. And then if you don't mark it, you're gonna line it up on a 1/4 inch on the side. Go down like that, cut your threads, put it on the corner, line it up. Okay, let's put that down, clip our threads. Here we go. Now with this ruler, you can trim off dog ears right now, but it does tell you in the pattern to square it up to 3 inches. So we're gonna have to square it up anyway. So I'm not going to trim my dog ears quite yet. Just make sure, oops, I'll put that over there. Make sure we're pressing to the same color. So I'm pressing toward the orange because we're gonna make a little pinwheel, and I think it might matter. So let's press to the orange. All right, so we've got our little 1/2 square triangle units here, and the pattern says to square up to 3 inches. Now, all of our trim up rulers are 3.5. So I'm gonna get one of these, our other rulers, and we'll square it up this way. So I pull it into the corner like this, and it's almost 3. So I trim very little. And then we're gonna have to get this little dog ear. Now if we hadn't, we could have trimmed our dog ears before, but it's okay if we're doing it right now. Put it right there in the corner and square it to 3. Okay. Let's clean up our little workspace. I'll put this underneath. And now to make this unit right here, the green is going to go on this side, the orange on that side, and then we're going to grab this fuchsia piece and we're going to put it across here. And we're going to make a 1/2 square triangle. See, I've already previously marked this. So when you trim down, you're going to get that. That's what that unit's going to look like. So if it helps to mark this to make sure they're going the right way, do it. And I'm going to mark that. Make sure, yep. And that. Got to make sure I'm going all the right way. Now, since this is marked and we're going to trim this side of it, sometimes, here's my marked line, I just go to a skosh right on that, just to this outside. So we have a really nice squared up unit when we flip it over. All right, let's trim those up. We'll clip our threads, and now we got to trim them down. Again, before you cut, make sure we're checking. Check your pattern and make sure it's right. Even though I've already made this block, you got to check and recheck. Okay. Okay, I'm going to finish these, press them, and I'll meet you back here. All right, you can make sure that they still all measure 3 inches. And they should, because all you did was add that fuchsia on that corner. But you can check, make sure they're good to go. Last one. Okay, good to go. And now we're ready to do the center pinwheel, that kind of fancy pinwheel section. So we go this way and it goes around the circle. So again, just pay attention to placement, and that's what it should look like. So we've got a little 4-patch now. So we're going to flip that to here, that to here. Let's take it to our sewing machine and let's sew. You can nest. A couple of those will nest, so I'm going to throw a pin in it. That's going to nest at the bottom, so make sure you don't confuse yourself where you start and stop. Bring it back to your design board, open up. I don't clip my threads in between, just kind of, and then let's flip opposite. Again, if you like to open up your seams, go for it, but I do not open up my seams, I just nest them. All right, let's take a look. That's what we want to see, that beautiful pinwheel. Now we can take it to our pressing station right now. We'll give it a good press on both sides. And you can open up that center little bulky intersection where everything meets and press that opposite. That last seam opposite. Okay, this should measure 5.5 inches. We can give it a little test with our square up ruler. And I'm slightly off, just slightly. So you can either check your seams and re-sew if you took too much of a scant seam and it's larger, or if it was pulling in and you took too much of a generous seam, you can adjust, or you can just give it a little trim. There's no points I need to worry about, so I am going to just trim down and it'll be the perfect size when I'm done trimming. Just make sure it holds still. There you go. It's just a few threads. But now that is the perfect size, 5.5 inch squared up. That's why it's important to check and trim along the way, because they were the right size block before I sewed them together. Okay, and now it's time to lay out your flying geese, and look at the pattern within the pattern. It makes a very interesting pattern. So that's what you want to see. You want to see the fuchsia extended as well as the orange extended into those outside units. And then we just put the little squares on the four corners. And we're ready to assemble our block. Now I am not going to do like chain piece these. I'm going to do one section at a time. And I'm going to show you why. Because you do want the points to line up with this center seam. So when I am looking at this, kind of just eyeball it, and that center seam right there, I kind of line it up with that point right there, and then I'm going to pin it. Now you're welcome to pin the outside edges. I'm choosing not to, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So see that point? I'm going to just line it up with that center seam. And then grab a pin and pin it. Again, if you want to pin your outside edges. Now when I'm sewing this, I want to make sure I'm not going into that point and cutting off my point. So I'm going to sew on this side, then I'm going to flip it over here and sew on this side to make sure I can see my point and I don't sew into it. Don't sew it into my seam. Which usually means I'm doing a scant less than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Right there. Flip it around. I'm going to have to give it just a little bit of a tug to line up with that side right there. Okay, let's take it to our pressing station. We open it up and that's lining up there. We open it up and it's lining up there. So that is good to go. Okay, so we're going to lay that there. Now let's just flip these two over. We can hurry and piece these. Okay, let's cut our threads. Let's bring this back. Now, if you want to open your seams, there's pressing instructions on your printout, but I am choosing not to press my seams open. So I am going to nest these seams. I'm going to flip this fine geese unit towards the center, and then that's just going to stay flipped the other way. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, then bring it over to our pressing station. If you want to give a peek, take a peek, and those should both be lined up just like you did before, and it's looking really good. I'm going to flip it over here. And then we can open it up, the big reveal. This is the best part, right? The last press. And look at that. You know what we have to do. The last thing we need to do is square up our block with our 10.5-inch trim it ruler. Let's take a look. How did we do? Can I line everything up? And there is just a tiny, tiny bit on this side to trim off. Maybe a little bit on the top. There we go. I'm going to turn that over here. Oh, right there. And you have to be careful when you do use steam because it can stretch your fabric. And I don't know if that's what it did in this case. And the Daylesford Quilt Block by Amy Smart is finished. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what Amy does with this quilt block. Thank you for following along and joining us. Make sure to use the hashtag RBD Block Challenge and join us next time for block number 4. It's called Frame Star by Fran Gulick.